So this is where my beginnings have led to. Up on the top of some polar ice cap, trying to feel out the mountain, just as if there was something really to experience there. After all, it's all about style anyways. Especially the more you go up there. You realize that's all the people really care about, is style. So I'm up here. I'm stylish on the mountain. I got all my gear that I would normally wear anyway, if I was up on the mountain to play. And, you know, then I know. Who really knows? Because they know it's cold enough to freeze your toes, cold enough to freeze your nose. And that at the end of the day, it's all really about style anyways. All right, what's up guys? I like to do soliloquies up on the mountaintop sometimes. And I kind of feel obligated to right now. So I was just coming up over the crest right before you drop down, and ended up having my feet kind of give out beneath me. And I thought to myself, well, what can I say to make myself get over the fall? Like somehow the fall's in the way. Like memory is really the only thing that we play. And I thought to myself, well, I can always call myself an athlete, you know? Because I saved myself. And I can say that it counts because there's been plenty of times where that has not been the case. But what if I was to say that I was a fighter? Does a fighter actually give himself credit? Or does a fighter actually have the ability to say that it was because of their fighting skills that they saved themselves? And I thought for a moment, if you call yourself an athlete to get over something, to say that you actually overcame it, or there was actually some skill that you utilized, which gives you the feeling of pleasure in an experience, is saying that you're an athlete just sort of skipping over a thing, not really taking it to the end? Because if I was to say that I was a fighter, maybe every time you do fall, maybe we always fall. And so instead of saying that I've fallen and this time I haven't, therefore it's a win this time, and all things add up statistically to actually showcase the true me, and therefore I can count everything that was a win as one in a total sum of all that I've done. But if you're a fighter, would you say you've actually never fallen? Because every time you go to the place where it goes to the idea that there's character there, there's always a character at play. And in this way, the fighter says that really the only way is to take your character to the end. And then it's in the beginning with every end. And then you say, nope, I've never actually fallen, friend. Is fighting like a dissonance? Where I know then that an athlete skips this end. Because it's not taking it to the end. And I know there's more there. Where if you say you're an athlete, then you are saying that there's accidents. So are you really confronting the problem by saying that there's actually no reason? Where if you try to say that you're a fighter, then it means that you've always went to the end. The fact that you cut off its head and came back proves that the beast is dead. Which also means that the experience itself is always near the end. But again, I know there's something more in the athlete's way. But what do I say? I think there's something given up. And sort of saying that because I was athletic, I caught myself. I think there's something more in saying that you fought yourself. Like you're willing to take everything to the beginning to figure out exactly why. Then, perhaps without words, the athlete seems more realistic. Until we contemplate all the chances of life, until we think that truly what do I deserve in this world? Maybe we can riddle out more about what an athlete really is. Maybe an athlete is like tradesmen. Saying that if you wish to see me low, then I can do that, my friend. But before you even know, I'll be back up again. There's this idea of trading. Perhaps a great athlete has a smaller square than the circle you see. And then the fighter is in a big box. And the circle is then tiny. On the surface, you say that the athlete has given up intention. For there is much outside of control. But perhaps if you're a fighter, then everywhere you go, then maybe it is really all out of control if you go everywhere you see. Because then it's all just like, it's all the same thing. And you don't really control where you go because can you have any intention? Ultimately, if you say that you go everywhere and there's retention, then the athlete's more like a tradesman in this way, to say that I don't know you because I went that way. So there is something that seems to be like it's given up. Unless perhaps we say that an athlete is a fighter in this way. So then what is fighting but seemingly going against everything? Daylight and the dream. Your thought to pick a word happens all in a flash. But do all these words in your mind clash before you ultimately pick a word? And then we could say which one's smarter. Anyways, but ultimately, yeah, I think what I was thinking was that, like, if you say that it's because you're an athlete that you caught yourself, then you're ultimately giving things up to this idea that there's a lot of stuff outside of your control. And skill goes both ways for either an athlete or a fighter. But as soon as you say you fought it, it's almost like you deny it. Fighting is an act of denial, ultimately, is what it seems to be more than anything. But there's definitely skills in each, you could say. But again, it's all about maybe speed and obviously what's around you. Because as they say, pick and choose your battles to the fighter anyway. So if that just happened and you're around people, maybe you could say, like, are you okay? Yeah, I fought it. You know? Maybe the difference is love, though, as well. If I actually had to put something more on a pedestal and say where things stood in terms of moral and ethical high ground, I think surely an athlete is more loved, at least by the people, for sure. I think up until the point, though, until death is what the people know, I think they might want something to deny it. And would the athlete actually know? But does the fighter know either? After all, if he gets over it, can we really call it death? And if he really does die, how would we ever know it? Ruined reputations. All ideas of defeat. Defeat in the attitude. Defeat of the feet. One thing's for sure, though, is this makes me feel like I'm more in character. But then maybe, you could always say, and I think this could go either way, that fighter is really athletic. And then maybe I can see more, just a little bit, that initially the athlete really isn't with it. Because they say they need less things. So if a fighter is athletic, it seems like there's less that he needs. Until, though, perhaps it seems there's more to be seen. Than what we see. Then maybe the fighter can see through things. A lot of it has to do with what, where, and who. Because words can even be athletic or fighting too. And if you're that great of an athlete, if you're ever going to be the greatest athlete, then you sure enough better be better with more than just your feet. And if in any way war comes your way, and you think people know exactly what you are, then if anybody comes to say they know you, better be an athlete then. Because in war, do you really have any friends? So I think I'm getting to the point where I can tie up these loose ends and perhaps transition through this space here to put on even heavier gear. And then in that way, the link doesn't go missing. I've made a point that I can do it with just enough. Then maybe I can say everything I know is at war. And that's as close as you can get to trusting anything. Salt Island. But I'm full of pepper, baby. Dear Journal, the year is 2070, mid-February. I still occasionally write. Whether that means it is because writing is a skill that you need to hone all the time, or that I am just still writing for another reason, and why writing would be considered for anything other than a skill, does that make it even more of a skill? To what end do I give up the moment or the potential that I would have no reason to write, what then is writing? A thief? What then is the best writing? To then say, I am the Word God. Austin. Maybe the athlete can get over it too, though, because it's like nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happens. Even if I do get left out here, or forgotten, or lost and found by something, that's mean. They're in for one hell of a mouthful. Do you really know me? Because if you did, I'm sort of a big fucking deal, I guess.